Alright, hey everybody, welcome to the Yinzer Sage. This is the week of April 17th. I want to first apologize for taking so long to get everything out. I had some issue with my phone trying to record. Well, first I found out that my headset died, the microphone on it. So I went to my phone and figured out a way to record that way, and then that didn't work out as well. So I had to come back to my laptop and record this way. So needless to say, this is the week of April 17th. And the news for the week of April 17th is that Wizards of the Coast has released the rules for psionics. Now, as cool as some people, it's a new version of psionics. It's similar to the last time. It's treated as subclasses. I'm not really going to go into it because I haven't really read it yet, but once I do read it, I will definitely put my opinion out on that. The second piece of news is that Paisio has released a preview of Near Space for Starfinder. I ordered a copy myself, and once I get that in, I'll be doing a review of that as well. Green Ronin has suspended all print of their product orders until the warehouses can reopen safely. New releases will continue in PDF and other digital formats until shipping can resume. And they will most likely not be able to attend any conventions this year due to event cancellations and postponements. The next little piece of news, Geppy Family Enterprises, who owns Diamond Comic Distributors, Diamond Book Distributors, and Alliance Game Distributors, has officially furloughed employees. I feel for all these people. This is a real difficult time for everybody. I totally understand. I've been furloughed myself. But as soon as hopefully this all ends soon so that we can all get back to work. I know I'm going a little stir crazy myself, but the other piece of news I wanted to mention is that Amazon announced an end to its freeze of non-essential shipments, which I'm thrilled about because I started getting orders I placed for different Starfinder stuff. I got the last Dead Sons Adventure Path book, and then I got Against the Aeon Throne and Dawn of Flame, and then I got Signal of Screams. I got two of the Aeon Throne, the one Signal of Screams. I got the third book to that, and then I got 3 of the Dawn of Flame books so far. I should be getting more in this week. But with that said, that's the news for Tabletop. Really didn't have any Neverwinter news. Nobody wanted any type of shoutouts or anything this week. I didn't get any. So we're just going to go ahead and move right on into the next segment, which is, excuse me, it's kind of an editorial. It's an opinion piece, I would say. But I got a lot of, the first thing I want to read off this week, I'm going to be doing a discussion about balance and in-game balance. I got a large segment of this off of a podcast / blog called Fear the Boot, written by Dan Repperger is his name. I would recommend it. I'll put a link up to it. Thank you, Mr. Repperger, for posting this. I found this blog to be very useful, and I will be definitely listening to your podcast, as I've noticed we have a lot of the same beliefs and ideas, and I'm really excited to see that I'm not the only old gamer that feels this way. But needless to say, I wanted to read this off of his blog. I found an article that I wanted to read in relation to game balance. It's called Balanced. Yeah, but is it fun? When 3rd edition D&D came about, one of the promises was to have a balanced game system. In fact, game balance has become so prevalent that it seemed that every other topic on some forums was about whether some element of gaming was balanced. Is this new prestige class balanced? What about Expel from Y Sourcebook? It would go on and on and on. And I have to admit, it reached such levels that I wondered if this was what new players thought gaming was about. Were they assigning numerical values to every class ability and weighing them against one another? Was there a mystical set of scales by which all things were weighed upon? Were there scales provided by Hiddekel, the evil god of tricks and lies in Dragonlance, known for his symbol, the broken scales? I wondered how this talk of the almighty balance entered our vernacular. I remember the occasional talk of something being overpowered, but we never used the term balance. That isn't to say the term wasn't used, just that my own experience never saw the use of the word. And I to this point, I have to completely agree. I didn't start hearing people mention balance until after 3rd edition. So from there, we go back to this article. I would like to say that it was an internet that saw the term gain prominence. Despite the mass communication medium, it also takes a force to drive the new terminology. Enter the game designers, perhaps most notably Monty Cook. They used the term balance quite frequently. Needless to say, the almighty balance began to annoy me to no end. Why was it that people were asking of it every little rule was balanced? Why this obsession? Did nobody ever have fun before the almighty balance? I sure remember having fun playing AD&D with some off-balance rules. That's when it clicked to me. Why do we ask left and right if something is balanced? Why do we not ask instead if something is fun? I mean, that's why we came to game, right? To have fun. Don't get me wrong. As a game designer, I fully understand that game balance is an important factor in the game. You don't want your wizard doing nothing while your fighter is having all the fun. Everybody should be able to take part in the gaming experience. However, we should not forsake the fun in the name of game balance. Keep balance in the background, but focus on the fun. You will find your gaming experience to be so much more enjoyable because of it. And I totally agree with everything he said there. The only thing I wanted to add to that was that, in my opinion, one of the only balance in games that is needed is to ensure everyone has an equal part in the story. If game mechanics interfere with the said balance, then it's up to the GM or DM to find ways to include everyone. The balance of the game mainly falls on the person running the game. And like one of the biggest games I've heard called unbalanced is Rifts. However, it's been my experience that if you have a good GM, then no matter what you view as balance, the GM can find ways to overcome it. The example that I've heard a lot of times is if one person plays a dragon and everyone else plays humans, has been thrown about frequently. However, place the group in the coalition states, and now the dragon has to hope nobody discovers his true nature, which can be challenging and difficult at times. The game Dungeons and Dragons, upon the release of the game, was not built for balance. Castors were toned down drastically from what they were originally designed. Gary did not want castors running the game, and I've heard this statement made by Tim Kask, who was the editor of Dragon when in TSR. The game was designed to tell stories, have fun with friends, and I'll include a link to that interview with Tim Kask in the show notes here. When you focus on game balance, first you can be guaranteed to take the fun from someone who wants to play the game, unless everyone completely agrees on the type of balance being enforced, which is difficult at times. You can't always find everybody agreeing on the same exact thing. If you can, great. If you can't, then you may not want to worry about balance so much and worry about the fun of the game. It's been my personal experience that those who tend to focus on balance tend to either be rules lawyers or players who feel that every character should be equal in every aspect. From personal experience, we had a game where we were playing D&D, and I was playing a ranger, my friend was playing a barbarian, another friend was playing a rogue, another friend was playing a mage, and we had another friend playing a cleric. Well, the rogue kept complaining that he couldn't do everything exactly like all the rest of the party could, and it ended up ruining the game. But that's every class has its own little niche, and the game was originally designed for people to work as a team, not separately, not individually, not for people to go up against each other. And honestly, like the only time game balance would come into effect in like Neverwinter would be if you're having like player versus player. But even then, you might have to instead of trying to balance your game, you might want to set it up. Like as an example, I'm going to have an arena league where people can fight each other, and I'm going to match the same classes up to each other about the same levels, and I'm going to make everybody use just standard items, no magical items whatsoever. That way, everybody has kind of a fair level playing field shot. It all based off your build. Um, Honestly, the only balance in Neverwinter you need to ensure is that everyone can advance through the game at roughly about the same ability. Um, I'm going to be putting in like two different paths in my world where you'll have your single players who don't want to team up with people, and then you'll have your people that are in groups or teams where you'll need groups of people to get through dungeons and whatnot. I'll have different I don't want to call them traps, but and not really puzzles, but there'll be different things that where you need more than two people to get through a door. That's just the only example I can really use. One of the best things about RPGs is the ability for players to make individual choices. Just because someone made different choices when choosing or creating a character or leveling up a character doesn't always make every character equal in every situation, and that's just something that some people just can't accept. Um, One example I can cite of general unbalance in games is when fighters or combat-oriented characters can make multiple attacks in a round, and yet a caster can only cast one first-level spell that round. Even though they have the ability to cast higher-level spells and whatnot, without the use of a feat or a natural ability or something that the player has to choose in order to be able to gain that ability. I'm talking, and from I understand where they say casting spells drain somebody physically. Well, so does wearing armor and swinging a sword for a half hour. I mean, if you've never done it, go put on a suit of full plate and then pick up a two-handed sword and swing it around for a half hour while trying to dodge people hitting you. I can guarantee you're gonna be a little winded after the end of it. I mean, unless you're in like top physical shape. But from where I'm standing, I never understood why, if a fighter can attack twice with a sword, why can't a mage cast two magic missiles at somebody? And that's pretty much my take on game balance. It's subjective. One thing that you're going to find difficult with it is not everybody's view of balance is the same. You'll have people who think one class is unbalanced and others who don't think that class is balanced. So it's kind of subjective. So you kind of have to find ways to work with everybody, and at the same time as Dan Repperger mentioned, you want to focus more on your fun or your story, and the balance kind of falls between that. Once you've DM'd for a while. The other segment this week I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the Neverwinter Nights toolset and scripting. One of the best assets of Neverwinter Nights is the toolset. And with toolset, you can build either adventures, which we call modules, or entire worlds called persistent worlds to host for people to play. And that's the one nice thing about Neverwinter. You buy the game once and you never have to pay to go on anybody else's server, or you can play it on any server, as many times as you want, as long as you have the hacks. And with the hacks tend to enhance the things you can use in Toolset. Like, you start out with so many monsters that you're able to actually physically put down different types of monsters, And then there are hacks like the CEP. I'm using the CEP 2.6 something, I think 6.5. But it adds a bunch of different, weapon appearances, armor appearances, creatures, tile sets. It adds a bunch of different placeables, and by utilizing combinations of different placeables and lighting and just area design in general, you can create pretty original stuff. The Neverwinter Vault now has a lot of resources to help teach someone to use different aspects of the toolset, including scripting. The one I found on there was called the Neverwinter University, and that's the one I kind of want to go over. Now, some of these this was designed for 169, but I'm pretty sure it can be ported over to the Enhanced Edition. And there's a bunch of different stuff, like there's a 2D icon creation for NWN video tutorial. Animating an object along a spline path in Gmax, Aurora engine documentation, Toolset help guide, you know, new prestige class tutorial, creating custom heads, creating custom hacks, portrait hack, creating custom tiles, creating simple placeables, a design document template, how hack pack and 2D merging, how to add custom feats, how to animate a light in Max and Gmax. I mean, this thing has just all sorts of different scripting tutorials, toolset tutorials, and I'll put a link to that. It's the Neverwinter University. And I found a number of other ones on there as well. The one I mentioned last week was NWN Design Tips and DM Tips. I'll put another link up to that one. That had a number of design tips. The Builders Project had a couple of different tutorials for building. And then the Neverwinter NWN 1 guide for DMs and builders, that had a number of tips. One of the best resources for scripting I could mention would be the NWN Lexicon. It essentially goes in and explains almost every aspect of scripting. Excuse me. And I use it often. It's a wonderful thing. I'll put a link to that in here as well. There's a couple of channels on YouTube that have scripting tutorials, and I'll mention them. I'll put them in here. One's Bumbling Brit, the other's Mr. Hanson, and then the other, I don't remember the name of the third channel, but their video is RPG Training, Neverwinter Nights, Aurora Toolset, Part 1. In addition, there's a couple of scripting programs. I would recommend Lilac Soul Scripting Generator. It's a lot easier to use than the other one, and for some reason I couldn't find the other one, but I was able to find 2 links to different Lilac Souls generators. I'm not sure which one's the better one to use, so I'm just putting both links up. There was a tool set released with Neverwinter Nights 2 that is different from the first one. I'm respectfully declining from commenting on it. I barely even attempted to use it, and I don't want to put my opinion out there on it because I didn't get enough experience with it. But the Neverwinter Nights toolset's very easy to use. There's a lot of resources out there. If you ever have questions, the Beamdog forums is a great place to get advice from. There is a Neverwinter Nights building group on Facebook that's, I believe, linked to the Neverwinter Nights community group page. If not, I'll find a way to link it up. I'm pretty sure it's our sister site though, so it should be up there. Like I said, I would like to also thank Darryl, Mott, Abstruse for the news of the week this week. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and do the review of the week, which is the 5th edition of Hackmaster. Oh, sorry. It's in actuality the 2nd edition of Hackmaster. The first version they put out, they called 4th edition. It was like a hybrid of 1st and 2nd edition D&D, and it had the slight, it had a, shouldn't say slight, it had a kind of a humorous tone to it, which it was a great game. I liked it. It just got really expansive. They put out a ton of stuff for it. There was something like 10 or 15 monster manuals for it. They were thin, but each one went in depth into each monster pretty well, like to the point of it told you all the different anatomy of the monster and what they're worth, or what they can be used for. I mean, it went pretty in depth, and I loved it. The newest edition, which they call 5th, I'm a huge fan of. Again, they kind of went back to that 1st, 2nd edition feel, but they've added some mechanics from more futuristic games, such as like 3rd to 5th edition. Excuse me. They, for example, the attributes kind of go off of the old 2nd edition, where you had damage adjustment and then like your max weight, and then carry, 3 different types: encumbered, unencumbered, heavily encumbered, max load, but with this system, you get your attributes are 1 to 20, and then each attribute also has a percentile number attached to it. Now, the only two attributes that they actually have differences with those percentiles are strength and dex, but they do exist for all the stats. And as you gain percentile points, you can raise your stats up that way. Another thing I'd like to compliment with this is how they've done some of their classes. Like, they have fighter, knight, and then paladin. If you want to be a paladin, you have to first be a fighter to 5th level, then you have to be a knight till 6th to 10th level, and then you can become a paladin, which I kind of like. That makes sense to me in a way. They added a number of, there's like a rogue and a thief, 2 different classes, and clerics or priests are based off of their god, so you have to build your cleric around a god, which is good. It gives some more ability to ideas for role play, which I personally love. I'm a huge fan of this new edition. It came out a few years ago, but not many people talk about it. I like the new combat system. They go off of seconds instead of turns, and honestly, I think it makes combat go a little quicker. I've had a couple minor test runs with it with some friends, and everything went great. It just, we haven't been able to find a group that wants to play it regularly, so that's what we're kind of waiting on. But with that, there's like a bunch of different skills in there that like other role-playing games don't offer. I believe it has like a 6-tier skill set system where it's like unskilled to master. So depending on what your skill tier is how you do your skills. I'm not going to go into it. It's pretty simple. I mean, honestly, it's it's just like any other role playing game. Once you read it, you understand it. It's pretty easy to use. Their equipment section's good. Nice selection of stuff and a nice organized categories. Trying to think. The one thing with spells and casters is their spells don't stop at 9th level. When you're a 1st level caster, we'll say 1st level mage, you get 1st level spells. When you're a 2nd level mage, you get 2nd level spells. When you're a 3rd level mage, you get 3rd level spells. The whole way up to 20. You actually can gain up to 20th level spells. Now, granted, as you go up in levels, the number of spells available, like the number of spells they have for each level, starts dropping, but to the point where I think it's 16th to 20th or 17th to 20th, you get 4. There's only 4 spells for each level you can choose from. So, I mean, while that might be slightly limited, it still allows mages that little bit more power that I honestly feel that they need. Same with clerics, all the casters in it are the same way. One thing with that system, the only con I could figure was because of all the different flaws and perks and everything involved in creating a character creation could take a while. But when you're done, I mean, it's a fun game. I love it. I don't mind taking a while to make characters. I play Rifts, so, God knows that can take a while. We kind of figured out a way to knock that down to 45 minutes, but I'll talk about that in another video when I do a review of Rifts. But needless to say, with that said, the only update I have for this week is I've been working more on my novel than I have my world because my daughter's been using my laptop and I've had to kind of let her use it first so she could do her schoolwork and everything, and then her laptop broke, so I've been letting her just stay on mine for a while. So I haven't really been able to work on any of my stuff. once I ordered her one, so it should be coming in soon. And once she gets hers, believe it, I'm going to be, in the tool set, getting my areas together and getting this. I'll probably try to finish 4 more or do 4 more basic builds of areas, and then I'll try to do one final build of putting down all the placeables and setting everything up the way I want it to, and then I'll connect all the transitions, and I'll do a walkthrough from the second level of the temple to the fourth area, so that everybody can kind of see what I'm working on. I'm not going to have everything in there, just so that people can understand that I don't get copycats. That I don't want people completely copying my ideas. I want something pretty original. And I kind of mentioned it before about how I'm building 2 worlds. Well, the first novel is going to start in Calstrata, and by the end of the novel, the group of players or characters will be on Melkara. So it actually is the first book to connect both worlds, and it's going to detail what happens on Calstrata that causes the group to have to go to Melkara. And with that, I'm considering releasing my novels in a chapter format on a blog. If people are interested, let me know, and I'll definitely do that. I figured that way people could kind of follow me along as I'm building, the novel, and as some of my ideas are put out, some of those who want to, pay attention can do so. But needless to say, as I said this week, I apologize for the lateness of it, and I apologize for it being kind of short. I didn't get any questions and I didn't get any shout outs, so I had to cut a couple segments small on this. Next week, I'm going to do a review on the Hackmaster DM's Guide, and I'm looking for any suggestions for what people would like me to talk about next week. I'm also taking any questions or Q&A. I want to do a Q&A session every episode too, where I'll answer any question I can about Starfinder or D&D or now Hackmaster, and every time I do a review of a new book, I'll include that system or whatnot in there. I've mentioned Riffs. I'll gladly talk about that one. But needless to say, like I said, I had a little bit of audio and video trouble this week. My phone was just being crazy and didn't want to cooperate, so I had to figure out another alternative to do this, and unfortunately, for some reason, the streaming wasn't working. I got to figure out what I did with that. So hopefully by next week I'll have the streaming going again, and I'll be able to get some more segments in and get this thing to be a little longer. But I want everybody to have a good one. Stay safe. Wash your hands, and everybody game on. Take care. Bye bye.